So, okay. We're now going to honor Gary Leib. And speaking about Gary is Kaz Papalanis.
Hi. There I am. Hi, my name is Kaz. I'm a cartoonist and an animation writer. Gary Leib was an underground cartoonist, animator, and musician. We met in New York City many years back, probably at a cartoonist party or probably a comic art show, which are basically the same things. Now, I loved his work, and I was very happy that we got to be friends. I remember many happy days and nights sitting with him at his kitchen table, drawing with him. We would draw something ridiculous, hold it up, laugh, take a swig of beer, and draw yet another crazy thing. I think Gary Leib had broken the floodgates to his imagination a long time ago, or maybe he was born without those gates. He was endlessly inventive and weird, and you can clearly see it in his continuously morphing animations, which are online. You should take a look. They're great. The comics that he wrote and drew with Doug Allen were way too anarchic to be contained by anything as pedestrian as plots, or stories, or even logic. The names that he came up with these characters were equally as funny as his drawings. Characters like Lavender Sachet, Beef Baron, Mod Pant Candy, Milkshake Gravy, Margarita Schnapps, Aztec Pizza Dwarf, Inebriated Goulet, Paranoid Fat, and Tiny Casanova. Gary probably had a 24/7 surrealist party going on in his brain at all times. But outwardly, he was really warm, a very welcoming guy, not just to me, but he was welcoming to a whole army of creative misfits. Whenever I find myself searching for inspiration, I just pick up one of his books and my imagination gets a jump start. Now, he was clearly an underground cartoonist, obsessed with weirdness, reveling in sex and grossness, but there was never anything mean about his art. It was warm and gushy and ticklish and malleable and fun. I can't help but see his face superimposed in his art whenever I take a look at it. He had that smile that said, "Hey, check this out. This is a really silly piece of weirdness." When I think of Gary, I think of the Roald Dahl quote, "Little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men." I love him. I miss him. And I'll end with two quotes that I'll take from Gary and Doug Allen's Idiotland comic book. "In today's day and age, you got to be here and there. And I hate speedballs, but when night falls, underballs." Thanks for listening. Gary Leib forever.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're now going to talk about Victor Liu. I don't think Victor Liu had a speaker, so I'm just going to mention that Victor was a tech director and an effects animator at DreamWorks and Imaji Animation Studios. There he worked on Madagascar, the Bee Movie, and Kung Fu Panda. So that's Victor Liu. We're now going to honor Steve McGrath. And speaking about Steve McGrath is his daughter, Brittany.
Hello, everybody. Oh, am I unmuted? Yes. Okay. My dad, Steve, passed away on Friday, April 9th, 2021, at the age of 61 from complications of Erdheim-Chester disease, which is a very rare blood cancer, with my sister and I by his side. He was a man who loved silverback gorillas, sushi, and FaceTimes with family. He contributed to projects at PDI DreamWorks, Pixar, and ILM as a computer modeler. Some characters that you may have seen that he contributed to would be Lord Farquaad and the dragon from Shrek, Gloria the hippo in Madagascar 2, Yoda's lightsaber and Shumai from Star Wars Episode 2, and Jessie the cowgirl from Toy Story 2, which is one of my favorites. He was super passionate about sculpting. He went to work to sculpt as a modeler, and he came home and and we had a whole setup in the garage for him where he was able to do side projects and just continue in his craft. I recall as a kid growing up going to take your kid to work days with my sister and getting opportunities to sculpt Shrek magnets and just see him light with his coworkers and colleagues. We would walk the halls of DreamWorks and he'd see different coworkers and he knew everyone's names. He was just kind of like a light to everybody he knew. He loved and cared for his family. We would have family dinners. He never missed them. We had themed birthday cards for every year as kids, which was really, really, really fun. And I think back to his struggles in the hospital and the trials he went through. And I think about one moment in particular that shows his care, which was my sister's birthday. My sister loves giraffes, and he drew a giraffe for her birthday as he was recovering in the hospital and going through things. So we miss him dearly. And thank you so much for this space and opportunity to speak, Tom.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. We're now going to honor Roy Naisbitt. And speaking about Roy Naisbitt is Tony White.
I have so many memories of the great Roy Naisbitt that it would take forever to share them with you. But I'm just going to pick two and I'm going to be brief. They both relate back to the Richard Williams studio in London back in the 1970s, where I first met Roy and worked with Roy all the time over a period of 5.5 years when I was there. And I was assigned to do the title sequence for the Pink Panther Strikes Again movie. And Roy was assigned to do the backgrounds. Now, my concept for the backgrounds was to set it in this wonderful Hollywood movie palace, this one here. And unfortunately, though, we didn't have the budget for me to go and film it in LA. So Roy came up with this amazing concept. He said, look, why don't I go and photograph all the historic theaters in London? I'll take architectural details from different parts, from different ones, and then I'll print them all out, cut them out, stick them together, and then I'll re-photograph it, and that will be your background. And that's exactly what he did, and it was fantastic. Now, if you watch the movie titles, you'll see this incredible theater that just doesn't exist, except it existed in Roy's imagination and through his camera. Now, the other memory back in those studio days was every year Ken Harris, the great Ken Harris from Warner Brothers, would come over and work on The Cobbler and the Thief. And I was assigned as his apprentice by Richard Williams to pick his brains and learn all the secrets of Warner Brothers animation and then share it to the rest of the studio. And that was really a very privileged position. But I didn't work in the same room as Ken. And I always remember being in my room every day. I would listen out, I'd look at my watch at 12 noon and wait for it. Sure enough, up the echoey stairwell of that wonderful Edwardian building, you would hear Ken's voice at the bottom go, Roy Naisbitt? And then I'd hear shuffling at the top of the stairwell, and I would hear Roy look over the banister, go, yes, Ken. And Ken would say, want to go to lunch? And Roy would say, yes, Ken. And he would come down and they'd go to lunch. Now, I would join them some days, and it was wonderful to be part of that company. But the memory is Roy Naisbitt echoing up that stairwell, and I'll never forget it. So I know, among other things, Roy was a great beer drinker, which I'm not. I'm not a beer drinker. But right now, I want to raise a glass or a drinking canister with my best filtered water and say, cheers, Roy. Thank you for a wonderful life well spent, and thank you for so many wonderful memories. Cheers, mate.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Tony. And, you know, interesting one other thing with Roy too, because I knew him. When you see Who Framed Roger Rabbit at the beginning, the maroon cartoon, Roy designed that whole kitchen where the whole thing takes place, and the scene where Roger pops out of the vacuum cleaner, you know, where he blows up like a balloon and he goes flying around the room. All that perspective spinning around him. Roy did that, and Roy did it by eye. He eyeballed the whole thing because they sent the artwork to us out at the Disney studio in Burbank afterwards from London. And all the senior layout people are looking at these things going, holy, you know what? You know, how did he do that? Incredible, incredible artist and a wonderful man. Okay, we now want to honor Marisha Noroski. And speaking about Marissa is Kathy Bauer. Kathy, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So Mary Louise Noroski, who we know as Marisha, was a real angel on earth. She was a very focused career woman, but those of us who worked with her also knew her as the kind, gentle auntie, the sweet fairy godmother to anyone and every one of us. She was always there when someone needed something, anything, a kind word, a smile. Marisha was there with open arms, a big heart, and sweet, calming ways. This is who Marisha was, not only at work. Marisha was there for anyone who most needed help. She spent many years working with abused children as a social worker and also as a volunteer. She literally put her life at risk by going into violent environments, sometimes in the night, to save the lives of children who were in the most extreme danger. She was dedicated to saving their lives and to nurturing them. The focus of her advocacy was on the older kids who had fallen through the cracks in the system, those who had been most overlooked. She continually followed up with them to make sure they were always okay, even in her later years when she was battling cancer. Marisha sang and could play almost any instrument. In the 1970s, Marisha was a regular at the Renaissance Fair where she dressed in costume, played flutes, and sold them. She sold a handmade flute to David Carradine. She also started working in the animation business at that time as a cell painter. Early projects Marisha worked on besides Saturday morning cartoons for Filmation and other studios include Lord of the Rings, The Fox and the Hound, and The Black Cauldron. Marisha worked in the paint lab at Disney on Oliver and Company, where she once proudly declared making a hole-in-one, meaning she mixed paint to match an exact color in the first try. In the 1990s, Marisha was one of the pioneering digital final checkers on the original Space Jam. As an early user of Animo, she helped in the development of the program. As final checker, Marisha was responsible for fixing any and all oversights in the animation pipeline that had gotten all the way through in past ink and paint, and many problems did get through. She could not send the work back or pass it on to someone else. She had to make whatever wasn't working work, and on a tight deadline. On any project, this position required great problem-solving skills, technical ability, and artistic knowledge. But on Space Jam in particular, the final checkers were charting new territory with Animo. Glitches were being worked out, and no matter how often the computers crashed and full scenes could be lost, deadlines remained concrete. Marisha excelled as a digital final checker and worked on many animated feature films at Warner Brothers subsequently. Outside of studios, Marisha's paintings were shown with the work of other animation colleagues, including her good friend, background painter Annie Gunther. Marisha battled cancer for 13 years and always remained a positive, hopeful, so kind and so sweet person, always. She is survived by a brother, nieces and nephews who adored her, and a companion of many years, John Hallman. Thank you, Marisha. Rest in peace.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kathy. We're now going to honor Yasuo Otsuka. And speaking about Yasuo is a message from Seiji Kano, read by Ray Kazar.
Thank you, Tim. It's been a great pleasure for me to have a close relationship with Mr. Yasuo Otsuka for about 30 years. There are several co-authored books with him and me. Otsuka was the key animator for the first color feature animation in Japan, The Tale of the White Serpent, 1958. He preferred to draw stupid villains and monsters rather than beautifully arranged protagonists. He pursued the realism of natural effects such as splashes of water, spreading flames, and collapsing rocks. Everything he drew was lively and full of believability. It was the result of observations and sketches that he had cultivated since his boyhood. In 1965, he became a supervising animator for a feature animation. Then he forcefully recommended Isao Takahata, who had little experience, to the director. He also coached Hayao Miyazaki, who was an assistant animator, and promoted him to the main staff. This work is The Great Adventure of Horus, Prince of the Sun. Otsuka was also a supervising animator and character designer for Lupin III, Part 1, broadcast 1972 to 73. He thoroughly drew real weapons, guns, and cars, and pursued the realism of firing and manipulation techniques. It was a feat that no one had ever done. Japanese animation reached another stage at this time. Isao Takahata and Hayao Miyazaki also participated in this TV series. After that, he continued to support these two geniuses. He served as supervising animator for many films. For example, Takahata's Panda Go Panda, 1972, Chi the Brat, 81, and Miyazaki's Future Boy Conan, 1978, Lupin III, The Castle of Cagliostro, 1979. He was also an animation researcher and an excellent mentor. In his later years, he raised so many younger generations at Telecom Animation, Studio Ghibli, Disney Japan, and several colleges. His guidance was logical and gentle, not at all intimidating, and his speech was always easy to understand. So he was respected by many next generation followers, including Yoshifumi Kondo, director of Whisper of Heart, Sanao Katabuchi, director of In This Corner of the World, Hiroyuki Aoyama, supervising animator of Belle, just to mention a few. In 2002, Otsuka was the first animator in history to receive the Government of Japan Cultural Commissioner's Award. Without him, there would be no history of Japanese animation today. His death is a huge loss to Japanese animation, and we are very sad yet. I hope that his autobiography, Sakuga Ase Mamiri, Drawing Sweaty, will be translated and read by animators worldwide. Otsuka was the one and only master animator in Japan. Our thanks for this remembrance to Seiji Kano.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. We're now going to honor Lou Ott. And speaking on behalf of Lou Ott is messages read by Dave Brain.
Thank you, Tom. This is a compilation of information that I put together myself. Lou Ott. Lou was born in 1927 and lived to be 94 years old. He was married to Sandra Benanati, another veteran of an animation industry. I was told by Joanna Ramersa, who worked with Lou at Hanna-Barbera for many years, that Lou and Sandra have a daughter living in Northern California, but we have not been able to contact Sandra or her daughter. Joanna said Lou was tall, slender, and quite good looking. My sighting of Lou during the short time I worked at H&B confirms this. Brian Hogan, who began his animation career in the H&B layout department, said Lou kept a 6-string guitar in his office and practiced pieces of flamenco music during his breaks. A few people who worked with Lou when he headed up H&B layout department said he was slow and meticulous in his work and an outstanding artist. He had credits on Hanna-Barbera productions stretching from 1964 to 1980 for layout, character design, and production design. While researching online for aspects of Lou's professional life, I found a fine arts gallery site that showed one of his personal abstract paintings, and I was struck by the boldness and strong sense of color and design it exhibited. That's all I have. Thank you very much. And that was Lou Ott.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, it was also mentioned that this year, Julie Benedotti, his daughter, passed away, and she was also an artist at Cartoon Network. So now we want to honor Vera Pacheco. Originally, I knew her as Vera Lamfer. I think that was her first husband. Vera Lamfer. Is Jim Pacheco around right now? See, I don't think he checked in, unfortunately. That happens sometimes. So anyway, yeah, Vera was a mainstay of Disney feature, and as well as Don Bluth productions. She learned under the 9 Old Men. She was one of the senior cleanup artists, ran several cleanup departments, including Bell's unit and Beauty and the Beast. Most of the important movies of the 80s and 90s, Vera was like one of the main artists, like things like Secret of Nim, Land Before Time, as well as Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King. Vera just worked on everything, and it was a real surprise. It was a real shock to hear that she had passed away. So she's definitely be missed. So that's Vera Pacheco. We're now going to honor Catherine Peterson, and speaking about Catherine is Doug Peterson. Doug, are you on? Are you there? I think he's here. He's here. I hear sound. Oh. Doug, are you around? No?
Getting him set up.
Okay, getting him set up? Okay, great. Good. Hopefully everybody's seen the links for the program. The links for the chat has been there. I know a couple of people were saying they were having trouble downloading it. Oh, great. Okay, here's Doug. Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, hello. I really don't have anything prepared other than when I met Kathy, she worked at Hanna-Barbera as a cell painter and then other facilities. And in the end, her final job was final checker at Disney feature animation. After the 2D animation more or less left, she didn't continue in animation and ended up working at Laurel Hall School and found a position as an art teacher, which she said was the best job she ever had. And she had a 5-year struggle with lung cancer and passed away on her birthday, December 16th last year. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. We now would like to honor Theresa Plummer-Andrews. And speaking about Theresa Plummer-Andrews is Yvette reading the words of Jackie Edwards.
And start video.
Okay.
Okay. I am sorry. I'll be right with you. my speech disappeared when I became a panelist. Oh. So I'm so sorry. It was there on the screen waiting for me. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so this tribute is written by Jackie Edwards, who's the head of BBC Children's Acquisitions and Independent Animation. She knew Theresa for a long time. So as she affectionately wrote, Theresa was AKA Plum, Trees, TPA, Tweez, and Bird. You'll be able to tell I'm reading a speech by a Brit about a Brit. And Jackie wished she could be here to read this herself. It would have been wonderful. So, Theresa passed on August 31st, 2021, leaving behind her beloved daughter and son-in-law, her nieces, nephews, and her many, many friends, leaving a huge piece missing from all of our lives. Theresa was a fabulous force of nature to whom many of us in the animation industry owe so much in so many ways. Though known for her amazing career in children's television, Theresa started as a theatrical agent working with the likes of Richard Burton and Liz Taylor. I suppose this informed her business style: charming, witty, warm, staggeringly well-mannered, and, when the occasion demanded, utterly terrifying and quite sweary. She moved on to working in live action on shows like Elephant Boy in Sri Lanka, and then to TVS, where she was lured to the world of children's, became quickly involved in animation, and then moved on to the BBC. Theresa's 20-year reign at BBC Children's Acquisitions and Co-Production was legendary. She was responsible for an impressive array of hit shows, including Postman Pat and Noddy, and making global superstars out of the likes of Pingu and Bob the Builder. Theresa was everything you want in a commissioner: instinctive, direct, and decisive. She never left you in any doubt as to the merit or otherwise of the show you were pitching. As an executive producer on your show, she was more than everything you want. A passionate advocate who would kick down doors to get whatever needed doing done. Following what we loosely described as her retirement, from the BBC, her retirement from the BBC, Theresa continued to consult, script edit, and produce for companies that treasured her experience and expertise, and moreover, treasured her, because she was something to treasure. As well as being a mighty woman in the animation world, a brilliant colleague and accomplice, she was also the very best sort of friend you could have. She loved her friends, and we all loved her right back. It's one thing to make friends, another to keep them, and her friendships endured through life, as with the magical Linda Kahn, who just left us one day before Theresa. Theresa was loyal, generous, and supportive, a purveyor of fine advice, which sometimes involved swearing. She was infinitely kind. Oh, and there were the laughs. Oh, the laughs. Even though through her illness, scarcely a day would pass without some outrageous bon mot appearing by text, email, or call. When she was in St. Thomas's Hospital, she sent a photograph taken from her room of the Houses of Parliament. The caption said, "I have a terrific view. Please send a gun." This was a defining feature, her capacity for seeing the funny side, sometimes inappropriately, but always hilariously. Without her, there is less fun, it's quieter, there are fewer laughs, and I have to say there is considerably less swearing. The world is a much less fabulous place without Theresa Plummer-Andrews. Rest in peace, trees. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Jackie.
That's a great eulogy. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we're now going to hear about Lester Pourier. And speaking about Lester is Dave Brain.
Thank you, Tom. This is from the opening section of the obituary for Lester. Lester Pourier attended high school at Pine Ridge, where he met and married Caroline Jacobs on October 4th, 1950. In the early 50s, he moved his family to Igloo, South Dakota, where he worked for federal government in ammunitions. He participated in the Indian Relocation Act and moved to Dallas, Texas, where he attended and graduated from the American School of Commercial Art. Later, he moved his family to Los Angeles, California, and began seriously to look for work in the field of commercial art. While taking a side job painting a mural in a bar in Hollywood Boulevard, he recalled meeting an Italian artist who happened to be a lead animator at Hanna-Barbera Studios. He was invited into the studio to train in the art of animation. For 15 years, Lester worked on many of America's favorite, most memorable cartoon series, including the Smurfs, the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, Tom and Jerry, the Jetsons, and Josie and the Pussycats. He even landed a side job working at Marvel Productions, working on the creation of the Garfield cartoon series. He also worked for Walt Disney Productions and animated on the Sonny and Cher show. His legacy will be the first Ogallala Lakota commercial artist, but his beautiful paintings of horses on the South Dakota plains will always be who he was. That was Lester Pourier. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now going to honor Kathleen Quaife, sometimes Kathleen Quaife Hodge. Speaking about Kathleen is animator Mike Sedino. Mike, are you there? Are you on yet?
Get him set up.
He's getting set up. Okay.
I'm sorry. Here you go.
Oh, no, there you are. I see you.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going to wing this because, my God, my heart is so filled with remorse and we met when she bought a painting of mine, and the very next day I said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I said that every day for 10 years. She was the most incredible teacher. Anybody who ever took her class was just amazed by her intelligence, her quality of being able to deliver the content, and I get to live with this person 24 hours a day and go to school with her, and we taught every single day. This is the most incredible woman ever. And we were supposed to get married in November. We were trying to get ready for everything with the insurance and all this kind of stuff. And my mom gave us 2 rings. I gave her 1 ring 5 years ago. God, we had promises. And I got to tell you, wait a minute. I mean, besides all this stuff, she's just the most incredible teacher. She knew how to draw. She knew how to draw the lines that said, this is the muscle. This is what it's all about. This is the weight distribution. She did color. She did just fantastic amount of information. I swear this is actually very clear. When I saw her teach, I said to myself, I said, wow, man, I would really like to teach her and to follow her class because she's such a good teacher. And all her students were just riveted by her knowledge. This is one amazing person we're going to miss in our lifetime. Her family, I got to just say, Max and Curtis, Jackie, and the whole family, I just got to say, my heart goes out to you guys too, because boy, did we lose somebody.
Okay, man, we're all here. We're all here for you. Don't worry.
We got you, Mike.
Yeah. Okay.
Literally an angel. You know, I got to tell you guys one thing was that every single day I was with her, we smiled and laughed. God, everybody who knew her knew she was great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, but
No, it's fine.
God, look at her IMDb and just know that she did so much for the film industry. And okay. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. That was great. It was great for you to do that. Thank you so much. So
Thank you, Tom.
okay, thanks, Dave. All right, we're gonna move on now and honor David Richardson. And speaking about David Richardson is Mike Price. Mike, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, you're on. Okay. I heard you for a second. So, is your mic on?
Getting set up.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, here I am.
All right, I can hear you.
Here I am. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm just going to do so I can see my speech. Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much. I'm joining you today to speak about actually two of my very close friends, late and much missed friends and colleagues, two great men who were writers and producers with me on F is for Family, the Netflix animated series that I co-created and ran with the comedian Bill Burr. These two wonderful guys passed within 10 days of each other in January of last year. But first, so I'd like to talk to you about my friend David Richardson. I was working closely with Dave on the final season of F is for Family, barely a month before his passing last January, about 3 weeks after we had our very last writer's room session of the final season. It was sad, but also kind of appropriate that we would lose Dave as we were wrapping our final season, because I can't imagine the show going on without him. Dave was the first writer we hired after the show got picked up in the summer of 2014, and he was just a towering presence in our room, not just because he was very towering himself personally, 6'5" of height. Dave was a true writer's writer, a comedy room legend who never stopped pitching jokes, and I mean, absolutely never, and made every room he was in that much better. I first met Dave in 2000 when he was my boss on the ABC sitcom What About Joan? And by then, with a full 21 years before his death, he had already put together a huge career that would be the envy of any comedy writer. He came from Phoenix to LA in 1976 with a dream of working in comedy. And he took time away from his day job of delivering packages for UPS to do open mic nights at the Improv and submit jokes to Johnny Carson and any other comic he could. He finally got his break when he was hired to write kind of under the table for Hee Haw, which then led to work with established stand-ups like Jimmy Walker and Marty Allen, and eventually to work on sitcoms like Empty Nest, Grand, Ed, The John Larroquette Show, for which he won a Humanitas Award in 1995, Malcolm in the Middle, Two and a Half Men, and many others. Though the bulk of his animation work occurred these past several years with me on F is for Family, he also spent an eventful year plus on the staff of season 5 of The Simpsons. Dave wrote the classic season 5 episode called Homer Loves Flanders, and unwittingly helped create that most famous of Simpson memes now, which I'll show you, which is this one of Homer fading into the hedges. That was Dave's episode. Who knew that would be such a big thing? I was so happy that I got to spend these last 7+ years working alongside Dave on F is for Family, where he was indispensable to me as a colleague, as a mentor, and as a teacher for the younger writers on our staff. And after he was passed, I was inundated with messages and emails from a host of young writers, and formerly young and now established writers, who told me that Dave took time from his busy life to read the material, to mentor them on their paths into the profession. That was Dave. He was a great man, a very, very funny man, and just a wonderful human. And he was a devoted husband to his wife, Shar, and father to sons, Wayne, Arlo, and Atticus, and a passionate writer and a defender of rights of writers and artists everywhere. And I'm very privileged that I got to know him. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. We're now going to honor Dick Robbins, and Dick Robbins' speaker will be Bryce Malik.
Hi there, I'm Bryce Malik. Dick Robbins was an animation writer and a story editor, and we worked together as a team in the early 1980s. Dick died in January of 2021, just a few weeks shy of his 94th birthday. When we worked together, I was just starting out as an apprentice story person, so Dick was 25 years older than I was, and it was a little intimidating. He told me he started in daytime TV with Queen for a Day and Art Linkletter's House Party, and those were shows I watched as a kid. Actually, I saw probably a lot of his work when I was young. He began his career in animation with Filmation's Rocket Rod in 1963 and worked for a couple of decades at Hanna-Barbera, writing on several permutations of the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo and Super Friends. In 1981, I started working there as an apprentice story person, and I was teamed up with him in 81, I think, to story edit on The Little Rascals on ABC, a show you'll never see, and on Chi-Chi's, a show you probably should never see. And we followed Margaret to Marvel Productions, and we were story editors on Generation 1 of the Transformers, which is probably our big claim to fame, and Defenders of the Earth. Dick was really the true journeyman. He could do both live action, action adventure cartoons, and little kids cartoons. He could do pretty much everything, and he brought a lot of new freelance writers into the industry. And he was very generous with directions and assistance to me. Because of our age differences, he had the wealth of experience, and of course, he taught me how production worked, while I taught him how to use Microsoft Word and the personal computer. But he was never afraid to face the blank page. I really had to credit him with that. He wrote the first drafts of a lot of our scripts, and he was even willing to let me change his work after he did that, which I appreciated. He was very ethical. He taught me not to put my name on other people's scripts, even when I edited them, and that's something a lot of writers today still don't know or still don't learn. And he strongly supported writers getting fair pay, which is something that I know they're still working on today. What can I say? Overall, Dick Robbins, he was a gentleman. He was kind. He was a talented animation storyman, as well as a loving husband with two very fine sons. And I shall miss him. And rest in peace, Dick.
That's wonderful.